In a tranquil black neighborhood where the streets were lined with modest homes and the air carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine, Elena Brooks knelt in her backyard garden, her weathered hands delving into the cool, fertile soil as she planted another row of tomato seedlings. Each one a small promise of growth and renewal in a world that had once demanded so much destruction from her. The sun hung low in the afternoon sky, casting a golden warmth over her modest plot, which wasn't expansive but meticulously cared for, with raised beds overflowing with vibrant herbs like basil and thyme, vegetables such as crisp cucumbers, climbing trellises, and colorful flowers that drew butterflies fluttering in lazy patterns, creating a sanctuary that Elena had built piece by piece after years of burying her past deep within herself, a past filled with shadows and secrets that she hoped would never resurface. At 54, Elena's dark hair was threaded with silver, her face etched with lines that spoke of both quiet joys and unspoken sorrows, her posture straight and unyielding from habits ingrained during 2 decades in Special Forces, where she had operated under the call sign Shadow, leading covert missions in forgotten corners of the world, extracting hostages, neutralizing threats, and making decisions that weighed heavily on her sole decisions she had vowed to leave behind. When she retired to this quiet life, raising her niece Lila after her sister's untimely death from a prolonged illness that had left Elena as the sole guardian, determined to provide the stability and peace she herself had rarely known. As she patted the earth around a delicate stem, Elena recalled her grandmother's words from childhood. Plants need roots to stand tall, just like people need their history, but sometimes you gotta prune the bad to let the good flourish. A lesson that resonated now more than ever, as she traded the adrenaline of combat for the rhythm of seasons, each harvest a victory over the violence that once defined her days. Her neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, an elderly woman with a warm smile and stories of the old days, when the neighborhood was a haven of shared meals and block parties, leaned over the wooden fence, her voice carrying on the gentle breeze. "Those tomatoes are coming along nicely, Elena. You got a green thumb like no other." And Elena looked up, wiping dirt from her hands on her faded apron, replying with a soft chuckle, "Just patience and a little love, Mrs. Ellis. I'll bring you some when they're ripe." The exchange a simple thread in the fabric of community that Elena cherished, especially in a place where changes loomed, more police patrols, whispers of evictions, properties snapped up by unseen developers. But here in her garden, she found solace, her hands that had once gripped rifles with deadly precision now coaxing life from the earth, nurturing, instead of ending a deliberate choice to heal the scars of her military service, where she had been deployed to hot spots across the globe, from dense jungles to urban war zones, always the one who blended into shadows, striking unseen and vanishing like a ghost. The irony wasn't lost on her as she adjusted a vine, feeling the tender leaves between her fingers, how these same hands had dismantled threats in the dead of night, saved lives amid chaos, but also carried the burden of those lost memories that sometimes invaded her dreams, with the sharp crack of gunfire or the muffled cries of the fallen. Yet in this garden, there was only the hum of bees, the rustle of leaves, and the distant laughter of children playing hopscotch on the sidewalk. Taking a sip from her water bottle, Elena surveyed her work, the neat rows a testament to the discipline that lingered from her Special Forces days, order imposed on nature's chaos, now in service of growth rather than strategy. And, as her phone buzzed in her pocket, she pulled it out to see the reminder, 3:00 p.m. Time to pick up Lila from school, so she gathered her tools, a trowel, gloves, and pruning shears, placing them in the old wooden box her sister had gifted her before passing each motion-precise muscle memory from years of drills and deployments, showing in the efficiency, a routine that grounded her in the present, far from the helicopters and explosions that once punctuated her existence. Inside the house, a cozy 2-story with photos of Lila's milestones lining the walls and the scent of fresh herbs from the windowsill pots. Elena washed her hands at the kitchen sink, scrubbing away the soil under her nails until the water ran clear, glancing at her reflection in the window, seeing a woman who had reinvented herself from elite operative to devoted aunt and gardener, her eyes still sharp, capable of assessing threats in an instant, but now softened by the normalcy she had fought to claim. Grabbing her keys from the hook by the door where they hung alongside a small keychain charm Lila had made in art class, Elena stepped out onto the porch. The screen door creaking slightly, she made a mental note to oil it later and walked to her faded green pickup truck in the driveway, its reliable engine a far cry from the armored vehicles of her past, chosen precisely for its ordinariness, blending into the everyday flow of the neighborhood where folks waved hello and shared gossip over fences. The street was peaceful at this hour, with Mr. Thompson watering his lawn a few houses down, raising a hand in greeting, and Elena waved back, appreciating the mundane rhythm that had become her lifeline, pulling out of the driveway and heading toward the high school, her mind already on dinner plans, perhaps grilled vegetables from the garden, with Lila's favorite pasta, simple joys that grounded her. Arriving just as the bell rang and students streamed out, Elena spotted Lila immediately, her niece's colorful backpack bobbing in the crowd, the 15-year-old's face lighting up as she jogged over braids, bouncing with each step, climbing into the passenger seat, and buckling up with a dramatic sigh. "Aunt Elena, you smell like earth again. Good earth, though," Lila said, tossing her bag in the back, and Elena laughed softly. "That's the smell of dinner growing. How was school, that history project?" Lila slumped playfully. "Okay, but can we talk about something fun, like stopping for smoothies?" Elena pulled away from the curb, navigating the after-school rush. "That bad, huh? I was thinking of making your favorite stir-fry tonight, with those snap peas from the garden." And Lila perked up instantly. "Really? But only if we forget the project grade." Her voice light, but with that teenage edge, pulling out her phone to scroll through messages as they turned onto Maple Street, the conversation flowing easily, a bond forged through loss and love. Suddenly Lila's tone shifted, tension creeping in. "Aunt Helena, there's a police car behind us." And Elena checked the rearview mirror, seeing the cruiser tailing too closely, her instincts sharpening despite the years away from action, maintaining exact speed limit, hands at 10 and 2. "It's fine. Stay calm," she said. But the lights flashed, and Elena signaled, pulling over smoothly in front of an empty lot, just blocks from home, turning off the engine and keeping hands visible on the wheel. Two officers approached, one on each side, the driver's side cop, older white, with hard eyes and a swagger, tapping the window with his flashlight. Elena lowered it, and demanding without greeting, "License and registration," his tone-sharp hostile badge reading, "Officer Vance." "May I ask why we were stopped?" Elena kept her voice steady neutral, but Vance leaned in closer. "I said license and registration," his hand resting on his weapon as the younger officer on Lila's side stood silently watching. Elena reached slowly for the glove compartment, announcing, "Getting my registration now." But Vance snarled, "You people always have something to say. Can't follow simple instructions." And Lila's phone appeared in her lap, recording discreetly, Elena noticing but not reacting. "My license is in my back pocket, reaching for it now," Elena said. But Vance commanded suddenly, "Step out of the vehicle," aggressive, yanking the door handle. "I don't understand the reason," Elena replied, heart racing but composure holding. "This is harassment. I'd like your supervisor." Vance's face darkened, reaching in to grab her arm, playing smart. "Get out before I drag you." And Elena warned firmly, "Take your hands off me. This is illegal." But Vance yanked harder, his other hand drawing his gun, shouting to his partner, "Get the girl!" The younger, hesitating briefly before moving. Lila held her phone higher, filming openly. "Don't touch her," Elena said, maintaining shield, as Vance pulled and he yelled at Lila, "Put that down, evidence. Tampering." Lila retorting shakily but defiant, "This is assault. We have rights." Vance's rage contorted, releasing Elena's arm to aim his weapon, yelling falsely, "She's reaching gun," though Elena hadn't moved, and the pistol fired, shattering the afternoon quiet. In that frozen moment, Elena's training surged like a tidal wave, her body moving before thought, twisting from the bullet's path, her left hand seizing Vance's wrist, while her right struck his elbow with precision, the gun clattering to the pavement as Vance's eyes widened in shock, Elena flowing from the truck like a shadow, using his momentum to flip him onto his back, the impact knocking the wind from him in a heavy gasp. Before he could recover, Elena had the gun commanding sharply, "Lila down," as the younger officer rounded the hood weapon drawn, and Elena fired two precise shots into their thighs, disabling but not killing the men, crumpling, howling in pain, while the younger froze, hand hovering over his holster. "Don't!" Elena warned with absolute authority, and his hand dropped. The entire exchange had taken less than 10 seconds, Elena maintaining aim as Lila scrambled out, pressing against her aunt's back, trembling, but still gripping her phone, whispering, "Oh my God!" while Elena backed them away, eyes scanning rooftops, windows, cover points, no longer the gentle gardener, but a force of controlled lethality. Neighbors began peering out, drawn by shots, and Elena called, "Everyone inside now!" The streets emptying as Vance pushed to his knees, blood from his head, screaming into his radio. "Officer down, shots fired, suspect, armed and dangerous. Sirens wailed closer. They had minutes, and Elena spotted Mrs. Ellis's gate ajar nearby, whispering to Lila, "Run through her yard to the alley. Don't stop until Reverend Hayes' church." Lila nodding determinedly despite shakes. "You're dead!" Vance snarled, wobbling, but Elena ignored, addressing the younger. "You saw what happened. Remember that." His eyes shifting with conflict. "Run!" Elena said, and they sprinted in sync, Elena shielding until the gate slipping through as backup arrived. Vance radioing furiously, "Armed suspect fleeing on foot, black female mid-50s. Military training ambushed, routine stop, shoot on sight." The younger watched Vance embellish truth, burning an innocent defending from unprovoked attack. But speaking up meant ruin Vance, yelling, "She had a weapon stashed, planned it," his rage growing with injury. Units swarmed officers with rifles, Vance directing, "Every street, alley, doghouse that terrorist doesn't leave alive." The younger, haunted by Elena's precision and restraint, knowing she could have killed, but chose mercy, snapping back as Vance barked, "Join the hunt." In the church basement, dim and safe, Reverend Hayes brought tea, reporting, "Police door to door, but church's sanctuary." Elena, thanking him, alert Lila, asking softly, "Who are you really?" Elena sighing, revealing, "Still your aunt, but I served in Special Forces Elite, Unit, call sign, Shadow Missions, classified. Thought I'd left it." Lila's eyes wide. "The way you moved, that's why," pulling her phone to show Doug files, redacted, but confirming Elena, nodding, "To protect you from that life." But Lila protested, "You're a hero, saved lives." Elena's face hardening. "Lines blurred now, I choose peace." Reverend adding, "Skills for this moment." Elena firm, "Won't go back." But Lila held video, "They attacked, we prove it." Elena pacing, "System protects, own." Lila standing, "Then we fight together." Embrace tight truth. A weapon past exposed life shattered but resolve, stirring fighting in light. In the dim confines of Reverend Hayes' church basement, where the stone walls absorbed the distant wail of sirens like ancient guardians holding back a storm, Elena Brooks and her niece, Lila, huddled on worn cushions, pulled from storage, the air thick with the scent of old hymnals and faint incense from services above Elena's mind, racing through escape routes and contingencies, while Lila, her fingers trembling slightly on her phone, began tapping away at the screen, with a determination that belied her youth. Pulling up encrypted apps she'd learned from online tutorials, whispering urgently, "Aunt Elena, that wasn't just a bad stop. Look at this. I've been searching police logs while we waited, and Vance's unit has a pattern pulling over folks in our neighborhood, escalating to arrests or worse, then properties get seized and sold quick." Her eyes wide with the mix of fear and excitement that comes from uncovering something vast and sinister. Elena leaning over to scan the digital fragments, her Special Forces training kicking in to analyze patterns like battlefield intel, nodding slowly as connections formed. "You're right, kiddo. This isn't random. It's targeted like clearing a zone for an op." The revelation hanging heavy between them. Reverend Hayes descending the creaky stairs with a tray of steaming mugs, his deep voice calm yet laced with concern. "They're canvassing the block, but folks here won't talk. Community's got your back." Sister Elena, handing them tea that smelled of chamomile and honey, a small comfort in the growing tension, Elena accepting with a grateful nod, but her eyes distant, replaying the traffic stop in her mind. Not for trauma, but for clues, the way Vance had zeroed in on her truck, his aggression premeditated, as if she fit a profile in a larger scheme. Lila, undeterred, delved deeper into her phone using a VPN she'd set up months ago for school projects on cybersecurity, cross-referencing public records, with whispers from neighborhood forums she'd joined anonymously. "See, after these stops, homes go into foreclosure or get bought by shell companies linked to City Renewal Group, a big developer pushing luxury condos. It's like they're forcing people out, block by block." Her voice gaining strength as the pieces clicked. Elena's jaw tightening, the gardener's hands clenching into fists that remembered the grip of a knife or a scope. Gentrification by badge. I've seen it in ops abroad, displacing locals for resources, but here, in our home, the moral weight pressing on her, a dilemma stirring within, stay hidden and protect Lila, or dig deeper and risk everything. Reverend Hayes, settling into an armchair, his presence a steady anchor. "The Lord provides tools for justice. Your skills, Elena." And Lila's smarts, perhaps this is the calling. But Elena shook her head initially. "I left that life to avoid pulling her into shadows." Yet, as sirens faded and night deepened, doubt crept in, memories of missions where ignoring corruption led to greater losses. And Lila, sensing the shift, pulled up more files. Redacted military docs she'd cracked, with clever scripts confirming Elena's shadow legacy of elite infiltrations and moral gray areas. "We can't run forever. We expose them, use the video I filmed." Her niece's defiance mirroring Elena's own buried fire, leading to a reluctant alliance formed in that basement, Elena agreeing to reach out to an old contact, Marcus Kane, a reclusive hacker she'd crossed paths with during a classified op years ago, now living off-grid in a fortified apartment on the city's edge, jammed with servers and paranoia. Under cover of darkness, they slipped out the church's back exit, navigating alleys Elena had mapped mentally during her gardening walks, avoiding patrols that combed the streets like predators, scenting blood, arriving at Marcus's door with coded knocks that echoed like forgotten signals from her past. The door cracking open to reveal a man in his late 40s, bearded and wired with energy drinks, his eyes narrowing, then widening in recognition. "Shadow, thought you went civilian. What's the play?" Ushering them inside where walls of monitors flickered with code and surveillance feeds, the air humming with fans cooling overclocked machines. Marcus listening intently as Elena recounted the stop, Lila sharing her phone's footage and initial digs, his fingers flying across keyboards to breach police databases without tripping alarms. "Standard encryption sloppy for pros. Give me a minute." Pulling up internal memos that confirmed Lila's suspicions, Vance's tactical unit flagged for community cleanup ops funded indirectly by developers through offshore accounts, raids disguised as drug busts or welfare checks, resulting in evictions and quick flips for profit entire blocks in black neighborhoods, targeted like strategic zones on a map. Marcus highlighting patterns. "See, your stop was no accident. They hit suspicious vehicles to intimidate build cases for seizures. It's systemic, tied to City Hall approvals for rezoning." The screen glowing with email chains naming Vance as point man bribes funneled as consulting fees. Elena's moral dilemma deepening the urge to strike back, clashing with her vow of peace. "This isn't just about us. It's the whole community being erased." Lila adding fuel by organizing the data into timelines. "We can map every victim cross with property records." Mrs. Ellis's house is next on their list. The revelation hitting like a gut punch. Reverend Hayes's words echoing in Elena's mind about justice beyond personal survival. As they worked through the night, Marcus setting up secure comms and false trails to mislead pursuers, the younger officer from the stop, Reed, wrestled with his conscience in his cramped apartment across town, replaying the incident on his hidden backup cam. Vance's false yell of "gun" clear as day. No reach from Elena, just defense, his hands shaking as he copied files, knowing speaking up could end his career, or worse. But the image of Lila's terrified face and Elena's restraint wounding, not killing, gnawed at him, leading to anonymous tips sent to forums. Lila monitored Insider Vance edits, footage takes payoffs. Check these accounts. Lila spotting them instantly. "And this could be the quiet cop. He's leaking." Elena cautious but intrigued. Moral dilemmas hit hard in the field. If he's turning, we use it. Arranging a risky meet through encrypted channels, Marcus rigged Reed showing up in a shadowed park hood up, voice low. "I froze that day. Vance picked your truck to send a message. He's been doing this for months, forcing folks out for cash. Handing over USB drives with unaltered videos and bribe logs, his eyes haunted. Not what I signed for, protect and serve, not prey and profit." Elena testing him with questions, probing for traps, but sensing genuine conflict. The Alliance expanding, Reed providing internal schedules for upcoming raids, allowing them to warn neighbors, discreetly building a network of whispers in the community families. Sharing stories of harassment over hushed calls, the investigation phase turning into a web of strategic planning. Elena teaching Lila basic evasion tactics, not combat, but awareness like spotting tails or using crowds for cover, while Marcus fortified their digital fortress with firewalls and decoys, the suspense mounting, as Vance, in his precinct office, edited more footage, his rage simmering, sensing a leak but unable to pinpoint, ordering intensified hunts. Unmarked cars patrolling the neighborhood tense like a powder keg, Elena grappling emotionally with resurfacing shadows. Nights where she stared at the ceiling, questioning if digging deeper endangered Lila more, but her niece's resolve, we stand or they win, mirroring her own past choices in ops where backing down meant loss, leading to a pivotal decision, compile the evidence into a dossier plan, a public exposure at the upcoming city forum on housing. But before they could, tragedy struck during a small community gathering. Lila attended to rally support Vance's men, tipped off by a mole-created chaos with diversions abducting Lila. In the confusion, Elena receiving a chilling video on a burner phone, her niece bound in a stark room. Vance's voice off-screen. "You poked the bear shadow. Come alone to the old mill, or she pays." Lila's defiant eyes pleading, "Don't, it's a trap." Elena's world narrowing to rescue the moral weight crushing, but now fused with strategic fury. Gearing up mentally for infiltration alliances tested, as Reed fed warehouse layouts, Marcus jamming signals, the chapter of hiding, evolving into calculated preparation, emotional depths plumbed through quiet talks with Reverend Hayes about forgiveness versus justice. Vengeance is a cycle. Truth breaks it. Elena nodding, then we break it wide open, the larger conspiracy unfolding like layers of an onion, developers' ties to council members revealed in hacked emails, profits in the millions from displaced lives. The dilemma not just survival, but systemic change. Building suspense through late-night vigils and near misses with patrols. Lila's abduction, the catalyst that propelled them from shadows into the storm. Elena's internal conflict resolving into quiet resolve. They took my family, now I take their secrets. The investigation phase culminating in a plan that balanced risk with revelation alliances solidified in shared purpose. The air thick with anticipation as dawn approached. The hunt intensifying, but so too their countermeasures, moral lines drawn in the sand of a neighborhood fighting for its soul. In the shadowed recesses of the old textile mill on the city's forgotten industrial fringe, where rusted machinery loomed like skeletal guardians, and the air hung heavy with the metallic tang of decay mixed with the sharp ozone of an approaching storm. Elena Brooks moved with the silent grace of her shadow moniker, her breath controlled, and even as she breached the perimeter fence, using bolt cutters from her hidden cache, the tool's jaws slicing through chain links like a whisper in the night, her mind a tactical map overlaid with Reed's leaked blueprints and Marcus' satellite overlays. Every step calculated to avoid pressure plates or tripwires that Vance's paranoia might have set the abduction video replaying in her head, not as torment, but as fuel. Lila's defiant glare, a beacon pulling her forward through the labyrinth of abandoned looms and conveyor belts, the mill's vast halls echoing faintly with the drip of rainwater through cracked roofs. Elena's tactical vest snug against her frame pouches, loaded with non-lethal darts zip ties, and a compact flashlight that cast narrow beams like surgical incisions in the gloom. Scaling a fire escape ladder with fluid pulls, her muscles remembering the rigor of endless training drills in remote bases. Elena paused at a second-floor window, peering through grimy glass to spot patrols. Vance's hired muscle, not official cops, but mercenaries drawn from private security firms tied to the developers, their flashlights sweeping in lazy arcs, conversations muffled but laced with arrogance. "Boss says she's coming alone. Easy payday." One chuckled, unaware that Shadow had already neutralized 2 outer sentries with precise chokeholds, leaving them bound and gagged in a storage closet, her code of restraint holding firm no kills, unless cornered, a principle forged in ops where collateral haunted more than enemies. Slipping inside through a vent she pried open with a multi-tool. Elena crawled silently, the ductwork groaning softly under her weight, like a reluctant accomplice emerging into a corridor lined with faded safety posters, her ears tuning to the hum of generators, powering Vance's makeshift command center deeper in where Lila was, held the girl's location, pinpointed by a tracker Marcus had slipped into her shoe during their last safe house meet, a tiny beacon pulsing coordinates that guided Elena like a digital breadcrumb trail. A guard rounded the corner, his radio crackling with updates. "Perimeter clear," and Elena struck from the shadows, a dart to the neck, sending him crumpling without a sound, dragging him behind a crate stack, zip-tying wrists and ankles before pressing on the mill's layout, unfolding in her mind, left to the boiler room, right to the loading docks, avoiding open areas where cameras might lurk. Though Marcus had looped the feeds remotely, his voice a ghost in her earpiece. "You've got 8 minutes before reset." Reed's stalling backup calls. The Alliance proving its worth as Reed from his precinct desk fed false leads to dispatch suspect sighted downtown, buying precious time. Deeper in voices grew distinct, Vance's bark echoing off concrete. "The girl's bait! When Shadow shows, we end this and bury the evidence. Developers want the neighborhood cleared by quarter's end." Confirming the conspiracy's scope, not just bribes, but a full-scale operation, with city insiders greasing palms for rezoning votes. Elena's resolve hardening like forged steel. This wasn't vengeance, but excision, cutting out the rot, to let her community heal. A trio of guards blocked the hall to the holding area, armed with batons and tasers, their stances sloppy from overconfidence, and Elena improvised, grabbing a loose chain from a pulley system, swinging it like a makeshift flail to disarm the first. The metal links wrapping around his arm with a clang, pulling him off balance into a knee strike that folded him the second, lunging with a taser, crackling blue. But she sidestepped, using the wall for leverage to deliver a spinning kick to his midsection. Air whooshing out as he doubled over the third, drawing a knife in panic, slashing wildly. Elena parrying with her forearm guard, twisting his wrist until the blade clattered free. A sharp elbow to the temple, dropping him limp, the skirmish over in seconds. Her breathing steady, no alarms raised, but sweat beading on her brow from the mill's stifling humidity. Reaching the holding room, a converted office with barred windows and a heavy door, Elena picked the lock with practiced flicks, the tumblers yielding like reluctant confessions, slipping inside to find Lila zip-tied to a chair, a bruise blooming on her cheek, but her eyes fierce, lighting up at the sight of Elena. "Aunt, you came," whispered urgently. Elena slicing the ties with a concealed blade. "Always? Now, quiet, we exfil." But as Lila stood rubbing wrists, the door burst open, Vance silhouetted with a pistol drawn, predictable shadow. "Thought you'd sneak in like your ops." His voice a sneer, twisted by desperation, the developer's pressure mounting after leaks hit forums, anonymous posts from Reed's data dumps, stirring online buzz protests brewing outside City Hall. Vance fired the shot, echoing like thunder. Elena shoving Lila behind a desk, as she rolled, returning with a dart that grazed his shoulder. Slowing but not stopping him, the confrontation erupting into a cat and mouse through the mill's bowels. Vance calling reinforcements via radio. "She's here, converge." Elena leading Lila through side passages, using the environment, toppling shelves to block paths, rigging a door with wire to electrocute a pursuer via exposed wiring, her ingenuity born from missions where resources were scarce. Lila contributing by spotting a loose grate. Vent here, crawling ahead as shots pinged metal emerging onto a catwalk overlooking the main floor. Vance below, with remaining goons. "You expose us, we burn everything, including your garden haven?" His taunt revealing surveillance on her home, the personal stake inflaming Elena's focus. Descending via a chain hoist, Elena ambushed from above, dropping onto one guard with a choke, flipping another over the rail. Into foam padding below, non-lethal. Always Lila, grabbing a fallen radio to mimic Vance's voice. "Stand down, false alarm!" Buying seconds as Elena closed on Vance, the final duel in the generator room, humming machines, drowning shouts. Vance swinging a pipe wildly, connecting once to her ribs with a crack that stole breath. But Elena countered with a leg sweep, disarming him, pinning with a joint lock that popped his shoulder. "Confess on record," forcing him to speak into Lila's phone, live streaming to Marcus's secure channel. Vance breaking under pressure. Developers paid for clearances, raids to evict profits shared with council. It was business. His words broadcast to waiting outlets, Reed had tipped the stream going viral mid-fight protests outside, swelling as evidence flooded feeds. With Vance subdued, tied and left for arriving honest cops, Reed summoned anonymously, Elena and Lila escaped via a back-loading dock, blending into the night as sirens converged the mill's shadows, receding like retreating ghosts. The resolution not in violence, but revelation. The conspiracy crumbling as arrests followed, developers indicted, council members resigning under scrutiny. Properties returned via class action suits fueled by the dossier. Weeks turned to months in the aftermath, the neighborhood transforming from siege to sanctuary. Elena's garden expanding into a communal space where families planted together, sharing harvests at block feasts that celebrated survival. Lila emerging as a youth advocate, running workshops on digital literacy and rights. Her abduction scar a badge of resilience, teaching kids to code apps for community alerts. "Knowledge shields us," she'd say, echoing Marcus's lessons, who now volunteered at the church's new tech lab. Demystifying hacking for elders, wary of surveillance. Reed badge surrendered, but honor intact, joining as a consultant for reform leading seminars on ethical policing. "I was blind. Now we see together," his words bridging divides. Elena content in the background, mentored quietly, helping plant metaphorical seeds, organizing mutual aid networks, legal clinics with pro bono lawyers, drawn by the story's publicity. The community not just rebounding, but innovating victory gardens, symbolizing self-sufficiency, rooftop solar panels funded by grants, post-exposure youth murals depicting the struggle with vibrant colors on once vacant walls, The air buzzing with purpose at rallies turned festivals' music and speeches blending into affirmations of unity. Emotional renewal came in waves, Elena visiting her sister's grave, whispering, "I kept her safe. We're building better." Tears mixing with rain, Lila hugging her after a workshop. "You didn't just save me, you saved us all." Elena's response, humble. "We saved each other." The chapter closing on a spring day, Elena in her garden hands in soil, as neighbors gathered for a potluck laughter, echoing the scars of conflict, fading into stories of triumph. No repetition of past cycles, but a forward march. The mill's reckoning, a turning point where shadows gave way to light. Justice, not a fleeting victory, but a living legacy. The neighborhood's pulse strong, resilient, unbreakable.